Great. Hey, everybody, welcome to another CKAMA. Today's guest thrives on helping others grow, so much so that she has made a career out of it. A career transitioner herself, she spent 7 months acquiring skills that would inevitably lead her to become part of Flatiron team coaching students to absolutely crush it as they develop throughout their careers. Since then, she's helped to build the coaching team to over 90 people and has undoubtedly changed the lives of countless others. Her role has grown and she oversees online programs and operations at Flatiron to best help support their ambitious students' needs. Please turn your cameras on, unmute yourselves, and help me in welcoming the Director of Operations for Online Programs and Flatiron School's very first career coach, Mollie Khine. Welcome, Mollie.
Hi, Mollie.
Awesome.
Hello, Mollie.
Thanks for that warm intro. That was great. Nice to see you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm super inspired by your dedication, not only to grow in your own personal growth, because I'm sure making the switch wasn't easy for you, but also to the growth of others as well. I'd love to start with your definition of coaching. It seems like a word everyone knows, but only to a certain extent. In your opinion, what is coaching? Or better yet, what is good coaching?
Yeah, that is a great question and something that I'm just thrilled to talk to you guys about tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you for being on the Zoom call. I know we're in a strange moment where we're all feeling a little alone, so it's really nice to see all of your faces. I would love to talk about coaching in particular because it's something that Flatiron School I think is really special about Flatiron School is the amount of support that we really pour into our students at every stage of their journey. And so when I use the word coaching, what I really mean by that is the skill of asking empowering questions to both support and challenge a person to make progress towards their goal, right? So that's a long definition, but what it really means to work with a coach is to be both supported and challenged. And a good coach is going to find that balance for each person because some of us need a lot of support. Others of us need just a good, solid kick in the booty and more of a challenge. And some days are different from others, right? If you're going through a job search or you're in the middle of a boot camp, right? There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. We actually use a chart pretty often at Flatiron School. We call the emotional journey of creating anything great. I'll find a visual to share with you guys, but basically what it looks like is starts up here, kind of goes down like a V and then back up again. And in thinking about, the emotional journey of learning to code or learning a new discipline, most people expect to come in, they expect to work hard, and they expect it to kind of be a long, slow uphill journey right to the top. And I'll share a visual of the chart, but it ends with the thing that I'm most proud of. And the reality is, right, you think, this is a great idea. All of a sudden it starts to get hard. It starts to be like, oh snap, this is harder than I thought, right? Like I'm staying up too late. I'm exhausted. I don't get it. All of the thoughts that start to pop in your mind. And that's where you start to see this emotional journey take a dip, right? That's exactly what the coaching is there for, is to be able to say, hey, where are you today? What do you need right now to kind of take care of yourself and keep taking those baby steps, because it's going to turn a corner. And you'll see on the chart when I share it, you start to turn the corner and you'll see, wait a minute, I can do this, right? This isn't so bad. Look how far I've come. And then you start to imagine yourself on your first day of school and realize just how much you know now that you didn't know then. And sure enough, you keep chipping away at it and you find yourself at graduation here at the end. But yes, it's probably easier to see the actual visual, but that's part of why I love coaching so much, is because I know that emotional journey is real. It's a part of it for all of us. Some people experience that 3 times a day. Other people experience like one big dip in the middle of the program. But it's real, and it's something that we've seen happen to every student, despite, you know, how naturally talented you are, or how much of a background you have, if any, in technology. And so the coaching is a big part of Flatiron experience, and I think something that our students really appreciate.
Right. And also for the people that are on this call tonight, I would love it if you guys can go ahead and just turn your cameras on. So Mollie's actually a bit of a Zoom professional here. She just showed me earlier how we can use whiteboards. And I think that I kind of want to incorporate that into tonight's event, because I think it's a really rad idea. So Mollie, how do you want to do this? Should we just pull up like a whiteboard and have people write 2 words, or?
Yeah, I can drive. So if you guys are up for just a quick activity, what I'm going to do here is share the whiteboard. So you should be seeing a whiteboard on your screen. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are seeing that on your screen. Very cool. Okay, so you should see a view options and then a button for annotate. And then once you click annotate, there's an option for text. So go ahead and click on the T for text. And what I want to invite all of you to do is write down 2 words that you think of when you think about the idea of pursuing a new educational experience. 2 words. Those can be any words you want. And it'll be anonymous because we can't actually see. Awesome. Somebody's writing a big, giant happy on here. The text version works here too.
Oh, we got people drawing all over it. Love to see
Somebody's happy. Somebody's excited. Somebody's
I'm sorry, I don't see the option where I can actually write on the board.
Try one more time it should be at the very top. It should say view options.
View options.
And then you should be able to click on that annotate. And then there should pull up kind of like a draw option. Yeah, you got it.
We got paradigm shift.
I might have wrote over somebody.
Some adventure, emotional. There's a lot of things going on. A journey, an adventure, an exciting adventure, growth mindset. I love that term, growth mindset.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
I'm seeing a lot of positivity on the screen right now. You guys are great.
Sorry I wrote so big. I'm the one who wrote happy.
Because you're so happy. I love to see it.
You set the tone. All right, I just saved down this
Taking
image
out the whole screen,
so I can share it back with you, Melvin, afterwards. And I'll just go ahead and stop the screen share. I also found, just in case you guys want to see it, I found the emotional journey chart right here. So I don't know if you can see, it's kind of small, but as I mentioned, this is just a reality of doing anything hard, right? An educational experience, taking on a big project, being in the world in March of 2020, you name it. But it starts right here with a lot of excitement. And then inevitably, right, you start to hit this dip. And the idea is if you have the right support around you and you really stick to it, you'll come out the other side. And I think acknowledging that this is part of it helps really set people up for success. It's kind of expecting that going in. Back to you.
That's a great mental model and something that everyone should keep in mind of, because if you didn't notice, there was a deep swamp or what was it called, of despair there at the bottom. And sometimes you will feel like that, but it's important to really lean on, mentors, coaches, and communities just like this one to, help you get through those like tough times, because they have been done before by many before you, and they'll be succeeded by people after you as well. So Mollie, I also wanted to ask, what's kind of like different with how Flatiron coaches its students from how like career coaching is done at other places?
So the coaching support that we provide at Flatiron I really, to be completely honest, I can't speak to other programs and certainly in as much detail, but it is incredibly individualized. And I think that that is really important because each person on this call has a different goal. You have a different story. You have a different background. And so it's not a one size fits all kind of program that we put our students through. Each person is assigned an individual career coach towards the end of the program. You will meet with that person one-on-one, and you'll walk through a series of steps to help you get ready for your job search, right? That includes all of the things you would expect, right? Your resume review, kind of an audit of your online presence. You'll do a mock cultural interview. You'll do a mock technical interview. You'll also have a networking discussion. And once you kind of work through the steps with your career coach, you'll declare your job search start date. And that's the date where you actually officially say, today's the day I'm going to start my job search. And from there, you have one-on-one support every week from that career coach who's going to talk with you about the things that are challenging for you in particular. We've worked with students, I've personally worked with students who have never had a professional job of any kind, which is completely normal. And this is a great first step, all the way to executives who have retired and like wanted to do something fun and interesting and like, you know, help become a member of a junior member of a technology team. The job seeking skills are very different, right? Depending on the jobs that you've had before, how you've landed those jobs. And so I think what's really special about the career coaches is that they care so much about each person's success, and they're willing to work with you in a very, very personalized way to check in with you every single week and make sure that you're doing okay, that you're excited, that you have a plan. They can revisit if your plan flopped, which it does, and they're with you every step of the journey. We also have a really, I think, extended coaching opportunity. We work with all of our students for up to 6 months or until they get their job. And so there's a pretty valuable coaching opportunity for all of our students at the end of the program. And it works. We have a lot of success rates. And I think that is fun to see, all of the new jobs that come out of this program.
Yeah, so we actually, I don't know if you knew this, Mollie, but we actually just had one of your recent, well, I guess he graduated Flatiron in October, but he was kind of a skeptic at first. He was like, well, I don't know if like all this is going to work, but I'm just going to do it. I'll choose to believe in it. But originally he was like kind of skeptical, and it just changed his mindset completely. He was like, wow, like this stuff really, really does work. Like he did everything that was, you know, required of him of Flatiron, and it was effective. So that's really awesome to hear.
Yeah, I love when people are skeptical, because you should be, right? You should be asking these questions. You should be thinking about, you know, where could this go wrong? Where could, you know, what are my options? And so I appreciate the skepticism, and I think it's healthy.
Yeah, always need to dig a little deeper and making sure that things are right for you. And a healthy dose of skepticism is always good. So I also wanted to open up the conversation for everyone else that is in here tonight to ask Mollie anything, right? That's what tonight's for. So if you all have any questions, please use that raise your hand feature so that we can go ahead and pick on you. Drop any questions that you have into the chat as well. We'll be keeping an eye out on that. But it would be really awesome if you guys could like unmute yourselves and then show your beautiful faces, right? Because Mollie would like to assign a face to a name. So yeah, we'll start with Kava.
Hi, Mollie. Thanks so much for coming and sharing your thoughts on Flatiron's coaching. I remember at one point, I'm trying to keep up with your notes, everything with my notes, but I wanted you to revisit the timeline, the coaching timeline. So I understand that the coaches are there with students throughout that job search, but I'm kind of wondering around what happens when someone gets a job? What's the alumni network like, and how, if at all, does Flatiron continue to maintain relationships with past scholars?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Kava. Glad to see you taking notes. That's great. So let's see. Depending on the program that you pursue, our online students actually get a coach on day one. They have an educational coach, which is a team that I oversee. And the educational coaches work with the online students during their time in the program up to career coaching. So we're really, really focused on activation, getting off to a strong start, right? That's what it means to activate. Is we know that if you get off to a strong start, you're more likely to get off to a strong finish, right? And so that's something that is important to keep in mind, is when you choose the date to get started, you want to make sure that you're ready to hit the ground running, because these boot camps are fast and you want to be ready. So we have educational coaches who work with our students from day one. That the career coaches work with students leading up to their graduation and then up until their job. And that can be 6 months, that can be 90 days. It just really is going to depend on the individual job search. And then after that, we offer all of our alumni effectively like ongoing coaching, but for your future jobs, you can go back for alumni coaching, which is about 3 coaching sessions. And we sometimes will get students to come back to say, hey, I've been in my job for 2 years, I'm ready to make a switch. We'll offer them those 3 coaching sessions to help them reset, right? They'll need to update their resume. Probably they haven't interviewed for a while. They'll want to talk through some interview techniques or practice. And then usually they'll use one other session to talk through more of like a job search or networking strategy. So that's something we love, seeing our alumni come back. It's, every couple of years or longer, when you're ready to consider a next move, that's when we would reach out for that alumni offering.
Thank you.
You got it.
I have a question. Like when you get into the program, how much do you have to pay to like get in, like tuition? Because like for me, I just moved to the States like not too long ago from a whole different country. So I don't have like a job and say, okay, I could put down money and say, I can put this down now, and like next 6 months, I can put another set down. So how would that work?
Yeah, thanks for your question, Naisha. And you have a very cool background, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I saw somebody else had the Brooklyn Bridge in the background.
I was playing with it just a minute ago.
Yeah, so that's a question I would encourage you to talk with our admissions team about. We have a couple of active scholarships going at the moment. We also have an income share agreement offering, which allows you to have no upfront tuition that you would pay back only after you got your job. There's some terms to look through on the website to make sure that you really understand those payment methods. But I think our admissions team is a really good resource to help you understand what the financial models are that you can look into, because how you choose to finance your education is really important. And we want to make sure that our programs have the access to allow people like yourself who are getting started in this country, for example.
Yeah, and then like plus with the whole thing going on, it's very, like I have an 18-year-old son, and I have kids, so it's very hard right now for everything to kick into play right now.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
No, it's real, like super real. So appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I think we have Aziza. Aziza? Yeah. How do you pronounce that?
Aziza, yeah. Hi. Well,
Aziza. All right.
That's my artist name. Hi, my name's Aziza. I'm in Oakland, California, and I have been accepted to Flatiron for the UX UI program on in person. I'm in San Francisco, but they no longer have the income share agreement. And I did receive I'm really grateful for a Women in Tech scholarship, but the price tag is pretty daunting. Are there going to be any other opportunities for people to receive financial aid, especially in light of the fact that the ISA is no longer available in the Bay Area, or at least in San Francisco, or I think California? And also, what's the best place to find out the outcome of the UX UI? I know it's one of the newer programs, and I've just been kind of like scouring the internet looking for just more stories about graduates and things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited. I love Julie DeBay. I love WeWorks. I've had a great experience so far, but I just don't want cost to prohibit me from pursuing my dream. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Aziza. So I heard a couple of questions in there. One is a financing question. It sounds like you're based in California, right? So ISAs are actually state specific. So that's a regional difference. We had our very first online graduates last month. So within the Flatirons program. And so there is limited outcomes data at this point because we only have our very first graduates. We actually do a graduation ceremony every month. And so we had a speaker, a UX designer at Audible actually come in and speak in celebration of our latest design students. So you're right, you're not going to see the same outcomes reporting just because we haven't had an audited jobs outcome since our design graduates happen. I don't know how much you've been on LinkedIn, but that would be a great place to find some of our graduates is just by searching UX UI Flatiron School, message them directly and ask them about their experience. I'm trying to think if I have any other suggestions for you at the moment. As far as the tuition question goes, again, your admissions counselor, stay in touch, right? Ask them again if you've already asked them once. Certainly. Okay, perfect. Certainly keep an eye on scholarship opportunities. I know that, as I said, that ISA financing is actually regional. So that if that is the case for you in California, that's unfortunately a state situation right there. Yeah, we can, I'm also Mollie with an IE at flatironschool.com. So if there's any questions tonight that you feel like aren't fully answered, please shoot me an email and I can help track down a colleague who can get you a better response than I can.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your question.
I have another one if possible. Is that to go backbone off of her question? So her things are different from here in Florida, like the scholarships for oh my God, the same scholarship that she was talking about, is that different from here in Florida?
So I think what Aziza was referring to, income share agreements, the information it's all on our website. So that's where I would really point you to be able to see. And when you talk with our admissions representative, even just to ask a question, even if you're not formally going through the interview process, you can always just schedule a chat and get in touch to ask some questions. One of which is, are ISAs available in my state? And they'll be able to help confirm that for you. Yeah, some of the scholarships are more regional, like we work with the New York City Tech Talent Pipeline and have for years. That's going to be local to New York City, for example. Some of the scholarship options, like the Cognizant Next Tech, is it's more of a national scholarship that's available on some of our certain campus programs.
Also, a lot of the graduates and like the coaches would be on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a great place to start, is just using that advanced search feature, Flatiron School, and you can find pretty much any student who is self-identified in their profile as Flatiron School. And that's actually, I would suggest everyone here does that. Ask people about their experience. Most of our Flatiron grads are more than happy to share because they were in your exact same shoes, a year ago or 6 months ago even. So they're more than generous to share their experience and their recommendations.
Thank you.
Looks like Jean Marie has a question.
Hi, so I'm just wondering, like,
Hold on a sec. Sorry, Chris, I think you might be sharing your screen. I'm not entirely sure how to prevent those things from happening, but
Sorry about that.
no worries.
So-
Yeah, Jean Marie, go for it.
okay, so I'm wondering how far into the program the career counselor kicks in and starts helping you prepare for the actual job search. Like, I think my program starts, well, I know it starts April 20th. I think it runs through like the end of July. So it's like 3 months or something like that long. And and I'm trying to, like, I haven't started yet, so I'm not sure yet, but like, I assume that, like, as we're going through, some of these projects will become pieces for the portfolio, which is used to try and get the job. So like, at what point does the career coach come into the picture and start helping you, like, maybe edit the pieces or guide you on what pieces would be, like, putting into like what your career goal is and what pieces you might want to emphasize? Or like, are you involved in the process to make sure that you're building the portfolio that's going to help you go in the direction that you're aiming for, and also like to help like really get a good realistic sense for what to aim for as a first tech job type of thing? Like, when do you start that like wheels turning process to like, like, I'm assuming it doesn't happen after you've done all the work, right? So just wondering like where that starts to phase in.
Can I ask which program are you joining, Jean Marie?
I am starting software engineering immersive in New York City, not quite in New York City because we're remote because of the situation, but April 20th. I'm really excited. I'm so excited. I just found out yesterday, so I'm like really excited.
Congratulations.
And I talked to somebody who's an alumni, a recent alumni. His name's Jamie. His last name starts with a V, and he just got a interview with Facebook, and he's got his technical interview coming up, and he got online and gave me some pointers on like he's so excited about the program, right? And gave me so much advice to like to go into this and succeed. So I'm like super excited at this moment. So I'm like ready to absorb like every possible thing I need to be aware of, so that I'm setting myself up for like the maximum success that I'm capable of, as as my individual is capable of.
Yeah. Well, your energy is contagious. I think everyone on this call is excited for you. That's, yes, exactly. I echo Kava's chat here. So you will meet your career coach in week 11. So of the 15-week program, you'll meet your career coach in week 11 for campus programs. For our online programs, the duration is different, right? Campus programs are 15 weeks for software engineering. The online part-time program is 10 months, and the full-time program is 5 months. So in those cases, our students will meet their career coach usually about 5 weeks prior to graduation. And that will give them enough time to spend that last month really preparing for the job search so that you can get started essentially right away. I also heard you say something that I think is really important, regardless of which program you pursue, is your projects that you work on throughout the course are what is going to show up on your resume when you're finished. So that's something that a lot of students don't really think about in advance. So if you have an interest in hospitality, right? Let's say like you've worked in a couple of restaurants, or maybe you worked at a hotel. Maybe you want to continue in that industry, but you want to work, in a more of a technical role. One of the best things you can do to tell your career story is to choose a project that's going to relate to either the industry that you want to be in, or something that is related to, professional experience that you have. That could look like, let's say you want to work in something to do with the medical field, right? When you learn to use APIs later in the course, you'll want to think about like, maybe I could use a CDC data set to pull in data, or maybe when I learn web scraping, I can learn, to scrape from something that's topically related to an industry of my interest. And so that will help you start to tell your career story that you want to be telling, right? If you want to break into, as my example here, like a medical technical company, you'll want to start telling that story early, and you'll want to start building credibility for yourself. And you can do that starting with the very first project that you're building. So something for everyone to think about, even if you're just doing projects for fun, is to start thinking about how can you make those project ideas related to the type of career that you would like to have someday.
Okay, that's a really exciting answer. I didn't even think about it in terms of so specific, but then as you was talking, I was like, oh, like I have been a professional musician and I've taught music lessons for years, and always in my mind I'm thinking, I wish there was an app for that. I wish there was like, you have your students and like, sure, you can write the assignments on paper the way I learned when I was 5 years old, but like we have so much more at our disposal now that I think, oh, what could be the app for, really helping them have better practice time when I'm not with them in the week, right? And as soon as you were saying that, I'm like, oh, I do have something to bring to this.
Mm-hmm.
I do have something to bring to this. Like, and I really kind of lean towards like hoping for like some sort of ed tech type position, because I think like an educator, just from, even though, I'm more musician than educator, I wasn't in public school or anything. I kind of like think about gamified educational tools, things that are make things fun to learn and help keep people on track, So like, just as you were saying that, I'm like, oh, I could try and find a way to work that into my project. So I'm really grateful for your feedback on that. I'm like, oh, more things to add to the toolbox. So I'm ready to go when I get done with Flatiron. So
Yeah, I can see some wheels spinning there with project ideas. There's so many things to build. I think one of my favorite examples of this is a student that I worked with. He was from Colombia. He was working in a restaurant in New York City to learn English so that he could then, advance his career. And that was like for 3 years of his life, he was working in this restaurant, getting better at English, and all of a sudden, incredibly smart guy, finding so many ways to improve the restaurant's operations, finding ways to improve their supply chain, finding ways to improve their ordering, eventually helping them onboard a new like point of sale system, then built a website to like allow for online ordering. And he just kept getting more and more involved. And so that was his story, right? That's his professional experience. And so he found a way throughout his job search to be able to build out an infographic. He now works for a company called Futurism. It's like a science magazine, online magazine that does these really cool infographics. He built his own infographic that kind of told his story, right? Starting in Colombia, then like leading to this restaurant and having like these amazing chips and salsa, and like what that taught him and how that led him to code. And through kind of modeling that website and the style, he was able to really demonstrate his commitment and himself, right? Telling and sharing who he was as a person, which is ultimately what gets you the job, right? It's people hire people, not resumes. And I think that's always important to remember.
Yes, people hire people. Remember this. You always want to make that first impression. And just like Jean Marie did with Jamie, who actually was on an AMA last week, she took initiative. She saw different ways of how, his experiences. I mean, he came on to an AMA to give back to this community. So she already could tell that he was more than willing to help out. Seek those people. Your HR is human resources. And so remember that this whole process is human. It looks like we have Kima Murray that wants to ask a question. Kima, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you, sir. Well, I have two, actually. One, what would be the percentage of graduates that have came into this field from an entirely different field and has been successful? I don't know if you would know that or not, but I was just wondering. And my second question would be the projects that everyone has mentioned. Now, this is just my third day, so I am totally noobish when it comes to this. But are the projects picked by the student or assigned by the instructor? And if so, how many different ones are there? Because I wouldn't want to do like the same as somebody else. So I would look like somebody else to an employer, if that is understood. And I'll let you answer those. And thank you for the info.
You got it. Thanks for your question, Kima. So 2 good questions here. First of all, how many of our students come in with no background in tech? I'm going to be honest, I don't have a specific number for you, but I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule. Mostly things usually fall in like 20% and 80%. And I know from just the number of students that I personally have worked with over the years, hundreds and hundreds of job seekers, that I would be willing to bet about 80% of our students at Flatiron School have absolutely zero background in tech. 20% have some like tangential experience, right? Maybe they worked as a project manager, or maybe they were, kind of around a technology team. But most of our students are coming from a completely different industry and are career changers. So I don't know that it's exactly 80%, but like that's kind of my inclination. It's like somewhere around 75, 80%.
I actually thought it was the other way around.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, I mean, that's why our programs exist, right? It's to help people understand and have a pathway to change. And I think when I talked with Melvin earlier, that's something that continues to anchor me to my work at Flatiron, is just to see and believe that change is possible. And so that is consistently what we see is, individuals coming to Flatiron because they're committed, they're ready to take on something challenging, and they see a path for themselves. And so hopefully, I believe that we do, but continue to provide, a really welcoming environment to help people get started, right? And so that's a big part of it, right? We all have to get started somewhere. So the second part of your question was about the project. So I'm speaking to our online programs in particular. That's the programs that I'm most familiar with, but I can also speak to the campus programs a bit as well if people are curious. We have 5 portfolio projects that are included both in our data science and our software engineering programs. The software engineering projects, the students choose the topic, right? Our first project is a web scraping project. And so what the students can choose the website that they want to scrape. So you can pick any topic that you want, anything that you're personally interested in. I heard music earlier. I know we have an artist on the call. So finding something that is exciting to you is always a fun way to go, but the goal is ultimately to meet the project requirements that are scoped out for you. So you'll have a set of requirements that your project will need to meet. And then what you do is you review that project with your instructor and you talk through your code and you kind of explain to them, here's how I approached it, here's how I chose this project, here's how it works. And they'll ask you questions about it to help kind of validate your understanding, and they'll kind of coach you through. And part of the reason why we build in those project reviews is because talking about code is a very different skill than coding itself. And it's a hard thing to learn because oftentimes, if you're studying or you're working on labs, you're at home by yourself on your computer and you're not really speaking, right? So you don't really have names for the things that you're doing. You're just doing them in your head. And so it's a really important skill, and something we build into our program is the opportunity to really practice speaking about your code, because when you work on a dev team, you're going to need to be able to explain technical concepts to your colleagues, to your manager, and importantly, to other people in the business, right? People who don't know how to code. You have to be able to translate that into say, here's the problem I was trying to solve. Here was our hypothesis. Here's how I approached the problem, and here's the results. And so that skill of just being able to speak about it is really important. So the short answer to your question, there's 5 projects that are included in the online programs. Our campus programs also have projects. They do more pair programming on the project work specifically on campus. So there are also 5 projects, but I think the first 3 of them are group projects, or I guess pair projects. You have a partner. And then the final project is a kind of like a capstone project. That's encompasses really everything that you've learned, and students will spend kind of a lot of time making sure that that last one in particular is really polished.
Perfect. Thank you.
It looks like Ruby, you have a question?
I do. I actually have 2 questions. My first question is, what do you think are an advantage or some of the advantages that Flatiron can give someone like me with 0 background in coding compared to someone with a computer science degree? And my second question is, are there any reputable tech companies that actually are impressed by Flatiron students that you know of?
Yes. So let me make sure I have your first question right. So effectively, students with a CS degree versus students without any background in tech, and how do we sort of help there? Okay. Also, I love your name, by the way. It's my grandmother's name, Ruby. It's very pretty. And okay, so let's see. We don't see a ton of students with CS degrees come through Flatiron School. They sometimes do because they've had trouble in their job search and they want to come for the job support. So as Khine asked earlier, most of our students are coming new to technology. And so that being said, we have a bootcamp prep course. It's a free course available on the website. If you haven't checked it out already, that's a good place to start. Is you really want to just kind of, I'll quote my dad on this. He always uses the term like earn your upgrade, right? Like make sure that you're really interested in something before you move forward, right? Don't like just jump. And if you want to, become if you want to become like a cyclist, right? Don't go buy like a bicycle, like rent one or get a city bike in New York and see if you even like to ride it, and make sure that you like it, right? Ride it for a week or 2 or 3 and make sure that like, okay, I'm committed, I'm into this. And once you are, then you earn your upgrade. And so I think that's an important way to think about getting started with a boot camp is take a bunch of free courses. Take Flatiron's free course, take other free courses, listen to some podcasts, try to build something super small, right? Get some like Hello World code out there just to see if you really like it as much as you think you do. And then once you feel like you have earned your upgrade and you're committed, that's the right moment to move forward, knowing that you already have built a foundation from yourself just from exploring those curiosities. And so I think that our curriculum is built for people who are new to tech. But that being said, it's a lot of work and you're going to want to take the time to make sure that you've, kind of explored some of the free resources on the internet before you get started. I think that's the best way to set yourself up for success ultimately. I think you had another question too. Did I hit on your other question?
Oh no, my second question is, are there any tech companies that are, I guess, look at Flatiron as a recruitment, like, hey, we're impressed by the students that come out of this school, and so we look to recruit?
Yes, absolutely. We have what we call our employer partnerships team, and they work very closely with our career coaching team to build relationships with companies that are hiring technical talent. And so their entire focus as a team is on understanding hiring needs in the industry and then helping to match our job seekers with open positions. So we have an open channel right now to be able to share job seekers with companies who are actively hiring. It is a really helpful resource for our students because oftentimes it can it can be that introduction that we need to get a foot in the door, right? You hear that term all the time, get a foot in the door. That's really what it's all about to get your first job, is just like having that entry path into a conversation where you can show up as yourself and you can demonstrate your interest and your effort. So we see job placements every day. It's such a joy. We have a Slack channel internally that every time a student gets a job, we post and everyone celebrates for that person. And so an entire like laundry list of companies have hired Flatiron grads. And I think I mentioned this earlier on the phone, but get on LinkedIn and just search Flatiron School, and you'll see some of the companies that our alumni work at, and that's a good place to kind of browse or continue your research.
That's good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have Jared, Lucas, and then I think Scott also wants to ask a question. Let's see if we can get them all in within the next couple of minutes. All right, Jared, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure, man. Here's what my question was actually for Mollie. Was about with the self-paced classes. When it comes to us doing projects with that. And sorry for the background noise. It's my daughter, and my fiance. Essentially, I wanted to know if when you do projects for them, is it still kind of like relegated to a certain schedule, or are you able to do those whenever you can, or am I still supposed to follow like a certain set regimen and everything? I'm sorry if I'm kind of jumbled, but I've been trying to think about how to actually ask this question for a little bit.
Yeah, I gotcha. I think I understand your question. Also, my daughter just went to bed before this call, thankfully. I was worried she was going to protest bedtime and she was going to have to join me. Let's see. The self-paced program in our online course, you have 15 months to complete the program. So you have the flexibility to be able to do that on your own schedule. That being said, it is about 15 to 20 hours probably per week of coursework in order to keep pace with that. So the self-paced program is still a very big commitment, but what you gain from that is you don't have to maintain the sort of pace of your cohort. If you join an online cohort that's moving together as a class through the curriculum, you have the opportunity really to take your time and spend a little bit more time on certain topics or move more quickly. But you do have the same projects and the same curriculum. It's just the format in which you move through it is not with a cohort, but is instead like more self-directed.
Okay. So then you just do it when you wish, or when you feel comfortable, really.
Yeah, exactly. And for some students, the self-paced program is a great option if they have, an alternative schedule. Like if you're a nurse, for example, and you work a night shift, like you can, work during the day or vice versa. I've talked with a student who has like 4 kids and she's momming all day, and she wakes up from 4 a.m. and studies till 9 a.m. every morning, and she's doing the self-paced program. So it really is just going to depend on the type of structure that is helpful for you. Some people really value being part of a cohort, but that requires you to keep pace with your class. And that's a timeline that we hold our students to.
Okay, that's good to know. Sorry, I was driving earlier, so I didn't want to have that video.
Yeah, nice to see your face.
Do something look for family. Oh gosh. How you doing? Oh, great.
Thanks for your question, Jared. All right, Lucas, I think you're up.
Sure. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So Mollie, earlier you talked about kind of having a theme for your projects that tell your story as you move through the program. So my background is in healthcare, but I don't know if I necessarily want to continue that. So if someone just picked random projects that interest them kind of throughout the program, does that make them look unorganized or unfocused to employers? Would it make you more marketable because you're more broad, or less marketable because you seem sporadic?
So I think the number one thing to think about when you're choosing your projects is, first and foremost, how do you master the curriculum? Like, how do you master the content? And if that is the top priority, the topic of your project is secondary. So you want to make sure no matter what, you're learning the material. That's your goal. When you're a student, your goal should be, I'm going to become the best engineer that I can be, or I'm going to become the best data scientist that I can be. And so I made the suggestion about the industry projects because I think that that's like next level to be able to think ahead as to how are these going to look on my resume. But all the while, the underlying goal should be to really make sure that you're optimizing your understanding. So I think sometimes it's important just to keep it fun, right? Like, you can't be too serious or you're going to burn yourself out. And so we have students all the time who build like cool zombie video games and just like, cat memes and stuff that like float across the screen and have cool headers. Like, you can build whatever you want as long as it meets the coaching requirements, or the project requirements. So will that make you more or less marketable? I think the early projects, right? Everyone understands that people attend boot camps to learn. And as you see, like, your GitHub profile progresses, a developer who's looking through your code over time will see that same progression. So I don't think it's going to knock anyone to have like fun and or random projects, but I do think that as you get into like your final project in particular, you'll want to really think about, what kind of company do I ultimately see myself joining, and maybe try and pick something that is a little bit more geared towards that.
Okay.
Yeah, but keeping it fun, that's important too. Don't discount
Definitely.
that.
Okay.
All right. I think we have time for one last question, or two, I guess, because Scott had to. Scott, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, hopefully show off a little bit of camera action there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, this question is for Mollie. So I'm really interested in doing the 12-week immersive software engineering program at Denver starting in May. And I think I know the immersive programs typically mean you're like on an actual campus for like, 40 hours a week plus, and there's like a really good collaborative nature between students who are in the immersive program and instructors. But due to the coronavirus, I know that all the immersive programs are now going remote. So my question is, do you think the quality of the immersive experience will be reduced as a result of having it be all remote? And then my second question is the 12-week immersive program really sufficient enough training to get you your first software engineering job?
Awesome question, Scott. Thank you for that. So first question I heard, in-person programs during a remote period of time for the world, right? That's certainly a unique offering. The one thing I would say there is our campus programs have been overwhelmingly positive throughout this shift. And I think that our student population has been one of our values at Flatiron School is radiate positivity. It's something you'll hear us say all the time. And I think the students have really taken that for what it is. As to the quality of the course, they're keeping the same schedule, the same curriculum, the same instructional time. Everything has just been shifted to Zoom. And so that your lectures take place over Zoom, your pair programming takes place over Zoom, your code challenges that you'll do during the course take place over Zoom. And so the Denver campus is amazing. I have several great friends out of that location. Hopefully you'll find yourself on campus in the not so distant future. I think everyone's kind of up in the air as to when that will happen. But I highly recommend it. I think if it's the right moment for you to get started, like now is as good of time as any to get going with it. I think that it's a skill to be able to work remotely. And I think for the people who are, able to really keep a positive perspective through all of this is it's actually a skill of a job seeker to be able to say, I have experience in a remote work environment, especially because we don't know where the world is headed and many jobs may continue to be remote well into the future. To be able to say, I went through this program in a remote setting temporarily. I learned how to use different remote tools like Zoom and how to collaborate and communicate, because there's just nuances that you have to be a little bit more attentive to when you're not sitting next to people. I highly recommend the team in Denver, but everybody's just kind of doing their best right now with the flexibility of it all. Your second question was, is this enough time to get to really get the training that you need? So the course is actually 15 weeks, not 12. Each module, there's 5 modules, they're 3 weeks long. And is it enough time? I mean, it is fast and furious, but we are very, very outcomes focused. So unlike going for a CS degree, for example, where you're going to learn a ton of theory, but on the job, you might not even actually know how to tactically get started or use some of the current libraries or actually add value right out of the gates. Our curriculum and our entire program is really focused on what is the foundation that you need to know in order to start very, very quickly adding value to a team. And so everything that we teach is going to be, and you'll hear Avi say this if you watch any of Avi's videos online, is it's all about learning how to learn. And by the time you get to JavaScript and then you go on to learn React, you will now know how to learn a new coding language. So if someone introduces a new one to you, guess what? You know how to learn it. And so that's the real key is, A, can you keep up with the pace because it's fast? But can you also kind of be self-aware throughout the process and understand how your mind works and how you're picking up on things so that you can repeat that down the road as you get into your new job and they introduce a library that you've never seen before. And now you have to teach yourself in a day or two how to use it. You'll be skilled at that.
Awesome. So after a 15-week all-immersive program, it is likely that you can get an actual software engineering job after this, pretty consolidated, fast-paced 15-week course or program?
So that I will point you to our outcomes reports. We have, Flatiron School has audited jobs reports that we issue every year. It's something we've been really committed to for a long time, is transparency of outcomes, because we know that this is a huge decision that you're making. And so you can see on the website, I think the latest outcomes report was 93% success rate coming out of the program. So definitely invite you to check out the details there, but that will kind of give you a sense of what we've seen from our other graduates. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
All right. I think that will conclude tonight's questions. But don't be discouraged, because you can always ask more. Mollie, where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can all connect on LinkedIn. I would love to get connected. I'm also going to type my email in the chat in case you have any follow-up questions. And yeah, I appreciate all of the questions.
All right. And so to close this off, I'm going to ask Mollie one last question. And I'm sure for many of you that have come to these events, it's about to come. Mollie, what is one thing people can do this week to move them closer toward their goal of breaking into tech?
So this is my favorite question. Sorry, I have to cough. It's making my eyes water. I think I would invite each of you to think about what is the baby step, right? What is like a tiny step that you could take that would help you learn more about a program that you're interested in, learn more about a coding language that you've heard of. I think the tiny step is your starting point. And each of you probably know what that thing is already. So write it down, take that tiny step. I hear all the time from people, getting started is the hardest part. So that's really my invitation, is like, you just got to start somewhere. And that could be just poking around on the internet for 10 minutes, right? That could be maybe trying out a new coding challenge that you just want to see what it's like, see if you can even figure out how to get started, right? But that tiny step, I think, is significant, because what it means in taking a tiny step is that you actually started, and that's big. So celebrate that.
Yes. So you heard it here first, folks. Take that tiny step. It is going to be a first step of many. And we here at Career Karma are going to be here to support you throughout every step of that way. And we'll nudge you a little bit. I'll be on you. So take that first step. And I'd love to hear what those steps are, what you're planning on doing, and reflect on whether or not you did it. Let's hold each other accountable. All right. That concludes tonight's event. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And Mollie, thank you for spending some time with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm cheering you all on. Have a great evening.
All right, everyone. Thank you all again for joining. And until next time, let's break in. All right.
Have a good one, y'all.
Bye.